One, there are three kinds of people in the world, those that are good at math and those that are not. All right, I got one. Don't forget, you have to be odd to be number one. Now, I'll do geometry, I'll do algebra, I'll even do trig, but graphing is where I draw the line. And finally, never argue with a 90-degree angle because they're always right. So as Miss Mouse said, I'm Miss Rosenthal. I'm a math teacher, so of course I have many problems. But I do want to give a shout out, first of all, to my homeroom. They wanted me to tell a story that, when they were freshmen, we did not get along very well. I dreaded going to homeroom when they were freshmen. But I will tell you now, I love going to homeroom. I look forward to seeing them. They're like my kids, and so I hope they know how much I care about them. So just wait, it gets better. All right, so here's my story. I was born in Storm Lake, raised in Storm Lake.
Yeah.
I'm a class of 1980 Storm Lake alum. Graduated from here. So you don't have to do the math, that was 37 years ago. My dad was a biology teacher here for over 26 years. I think that's where kind of my role model was to become a teacher. He was actually the one who designed the courtyard that you see out the media center. He designed and took care of that. He spent hundreds of hours taking care of that. If you look out there, there's like a S and an L. At a time, there used to be railroad ties that outline that S and L. And actually, when I was in middle school, I helped him bring those railroad ties in. And it's been that long, they've rotted since then. But anyway, take a look out there, you'll see the S and the L. He was also a coach for many years. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She was there when I left for school and there when I came home. I have a younger brother and a younger sister, and actually we only lived 2 blocks north of here, so that's where I was raised and grew up. I was a 4-year 4-sport athlete. I played for the Storm Lake Tornadoettes. That's what we were called back then, the Tornadoettes. I was like a gym rat. Whatever sport was in season, I loved that. I played softball, volleyball, basketball. Back then it was 6-on-6. If you don't know what that is, Google it, okay? There's too much time to try and explain what that game is, but it was an awesome game at the time. I also played tennis. And I do have a very vivid memory of tennis because my coach was Mr. Brosted. I think he's here.
Wow.
And I went out for tennis because I did not want to go out for track because I did not like to run. But much to my surprise, Mr. Brosted likes to run. And on occasion, we would run from the high school courts down to the lake and back with our racket in our hand. And sometimes the racket cover on our hand. I must have had massive forearms, I don't know, but that was a good memory. I'm still coaching tennis. I enjoyed school. I was very well behaved. My dad was just on the hall, so I had to behave. I was involved in many activities like band, FCA, FTA at the time, Future Teachers of America. The rest is history on that. I went to a small Christian college for about 4 years and got my bachelor's in math. This is my 33rd year of teaching. I've taught longer than I haven't taught. I've taught in a wide variety of schools. I started out in Marshalltown, where I taught math and coached. Then I worked at Boys Town in Omaha. I did that for a year. Then an opportunity came to work in a small town just outside of that called Elkhorn. At the time, it was kind of an isolated town west of Omaha, but you know how cities expand, and now it's just like a suburb of Omaha. I also coached volleyball, basketball, tennis, and soccer when I was at Elkhorn. In fact, the first soccer game I ever saw was the first one I ever coached. So I learned a lot that year. It was a huge learning curve, but the girls helped me a lot. From there, I went to St. Joseph, Missouri. I worked at an alternative high school there. The kids did core classes half the day and vocational classes the other half of the day. So now I've been at Storm Lake for about 18 years, as I said. I started out supervising the alternative study hall. Then I taught all the ELO classes. Then I did a little PE, and now I've done all math. One of the things I love about life is the ability to learn new things. Never stop trying to learn. For example, if the dishwasher breaks, I try and fix it. And if I can't fix it, I call a repairman, and I look over his shoulder to see how he's fixing it, just in case it happens again. Then I can fix it. Or, for example, driving down the highway. Do you ever wonder those wind turbines, how fast they're going? How big a circumference they have? Don't you ever wonder that too?
No.
Yeah, that goes through my mind all the time. Or here's the one that just drives me nuts. When you're mowing, do you ever wonder when you're mowing, like how far you've gone, like in feet, yards, and miles? No? Do you think it makes a difference if you walk or mow in a rectangle as opposed to mowing diagonally?
No.
Think about it. Next time you mow, think about it if it makes a difference. You know, even this morning I was thinking, man, I've never talked in front of this many people. I've taught lots of students. I have classes that are 26 people or more. But this is like 26 squared out here. That's the way my brain works. I know it's a curse. One of the things I found when I was trying to cross some things off my bucket list a couple years ago was to do something you've never done before. You have to do something you've never done before. And so for years I had watched on TV these triathlons. And triathlons were usually in beautiful places like Hawaii. And I was always amazed at how they could do that and accomplish that. So it was something I had never done before, so I had to train like I had never done before. So I signed up for one, little did I know, and 5 months later I completed it, 2 days before my 50th birthday. Now, for those of you who don't know what a triathlon is, it's swimming, biking, and running. Okay, now the triathlon I did was called a sprint triathlon. Mine wasn't necessarily a sprint, it was more like a jog and a walk, but still. The swimming was 400 meters, which is 8 times the length of the pool and back. And I am a terrible swimmer. For those of you that are good swimmers, I admire you. I had to side stroke the whole thing. Okay, do you know what the side stroke is? Yeah, it didn't go very well. I'm a terrible swimmer. Okay, so when they asked us to line up, they said, kind of line up like what you think your ability is in swimming. I lined up at the back. But there were a few people behind me. I think there were like 70-year-olds, but they were behind me. And so they started us in a staggered, like we got in, you went down lane 1, came back in lane 1, ducked under the rope, went down in lane 2, came back, and we did that all the way through 8 lanes. Then you got out of the pool, and then you went on your bike ride, 12 miles. Now, 12 miles really isn't very much if you're into biking, and really it is my easiest event because I had done some Ragbri and a few other riding events. 12 miles is like from here to Alta and back. So that, I really didn't have any trouble with that. But then came the run. Now, remember earlier I said I didn't like running? I don't like running. But this was 3 miles of running. Now, biking 12 miles is one thing, running 3 miles is one thing, but trying to do them back to back is not compatible. It did not, my legs when I got off that bike would not work. It's a weird feeling. They would not run. So it was the longest 3 miles of my life, and I'll probably never do it again, but mission accomplished, I did it. Now, I want you to think of things that you have never done before that you would like. For example, if you want to play the guitar, you have to start playing the guitar. You can't just wish you played the guitar, you have to do it. Like I couldn't wish that I wanted to do a triathlon, I had to actually go do it. Okay? Or if you want to do better in a class, you can't just say, oh man, I'm terrible at math. Okay? Well, But you got to do something different if you want to be better. You have to be willing to try. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Every single teacher that you have has made thousands of mistakes. But you have to be willing to try, because mistakes mean you are trying. Now, this speech is definitely something I've never done before. You know, a lot of people are like, man, that's a lot of people. Are you nervous? Yeah. Okay, but in thinking about this speech, I thought of several different ideas. You know, what has happened in my life that will explain how I got here. So I'm going to do something I've never done before. I'm going to tell about part of my life that very, very few people know about. Even my close family and friends, I've really never talked to them about. In fact, it's been over 20 years since it really happened. And I was ashamed that it happened. But here's what I decided in deciding to speak on this, is that the experience did bring me to this place. It did make an impact in my life, obviously, when you hear about it. And I hope that it helps put some perspective in your life and change if you need it. I can't remember the first time he hit me. Yeah, my husband hit me. He physically and emotionally abused me for 10 years of our marriage. It started when we were dating, and I noticed that his temper would flare about little things. But eventually he would calm down and blame his anger response on other stupid people, or that he was being treated unfairly. He promised he would change. And, you know, I loved him. He was going to be my husband. I was going to marry him. And how embarrassing would that have been just to call that off? We got married. I moved from a great job in Marshalltown to Omaha. And it wasn't too long when I realized that things were going to be more difficult. I had grown up in a family that didn't yell, didn't fight. I never heard my parents fight. In fact, I think the hardest word I ever heard was, dang. That was the hardest word in my family that I heard. But my husband really had no trouble yelling, cursing, being angry, calling bad names. And he would get upset over these little things, like the dishes in the dishwasher weren't out. There's a paper on the floor. I didn't get the clothes out of the dryer fast enough. Things that might bug you, but he would turn it into a 2 or 3 hour lecture about how I needed to support him. And when he gets home from work, that he doesn't want that stress, and that I should treat him better. The first couple of years were tough. We each had full-time jobs, went to school part-time, I was coaching. We also bought a house, so that created more money issues. And his dysfunctional family also lived in Omaha. They were a source of much stress. When we would go over there, it would always turn into a yelling match. And then when we got home, I was in trouble because I wouldn't speak up for my husband and support him when they were yelling. The yelling and the screaming eventually turned into more physical and mental abuse. Like I said, I don't remember the first time he hit me, but I'm sure I was told it was my fault. Every time it was my fault. Maybe I wasn't home at the right time. It took too long to get groceries. The house wasn't clean. I couldn't find a paper. Maybe I said something to him that just he didn't like. But he would often slash out at me. Maybe he'd slap the back of my head, push me into the chair, push me against the wall, tell me I was stupid. Even to the more serious stuff, push me downstairs. He'd block me if I wanted to just get out of the room, he'd block me. He threw things at me, I always had to be the one to clean it up. It was humiliating. Even now, I as you can tell, I still have a hard time breathing when I talk about this because I can still imagine the back of his hand coming towards me. Whenever those things would happen, he would always come back and say he was sorry. But he was just under so much stress that I needed to support him and not talk back to him. His job was so much more stressful than anyone else's that he just couldn't help it. Now at the time, I don't remember thinking this was abuse. I kept thinking it will get better. He does have a stressful job, and I was married, I committed to the marriage, and I was going to do whatever I needed to do to make it work. Most of the time I was probably in shock. I didn't realize somebody could treat somebody that way, let alone your wife. But I married him, I loved him, there were a few good times, and I really thought I was the only one that could help him. I did all of this for my family and friends. I was ashamed, and honestly, at the time, I didn't want anybody to feel bad about my husband. I thought it was a social stigma to get a divorce, to break up your family. I didn't want people to judge me. We had our first son after 4 years of marriage, and I was so excited because I thought everything was going to be great. We're going to be this happy family of 3. But as you know, babies cause more stress. My husband couldn't stand crying. So if you have ever been around babies, they cry. And it would just set him off. And I was always afraid he'd lose his temper with me and the baby. And it was always my fault the baby was crying. The physical abuse did not stop. Now he had another excuse to get upset. Sometimes he would hit me or even push me when the baby was in my arms. But his job was stressful. He was even more controlling. Now you probably don't remember this, but before cell phones you could get beepers. Okay, medical people had beepers a lot just for emergencies that they could be called back to the hospital. He got one of those for me because they said he needed to get hold of me. So he made me wear this beeper to school. Okay, I had to have it on me at all times. And you couldn't really call on the beeper, obviously, but if a number came up, it would tell you to call that number or whatever. So he had a signal that if you put in 3 9s, I better call him right away. That's controlling. So he promised me, a lot of promises, that if we moved to Missouri, everything would be better. We would be away from his family, his job wouldn't be so stressful, and we could just start new. Now, who would want that? That sounds good, doesn't it? Start new, no stress. I really didn't want to move because I liked my job, but I was going to support my husband. Now, isolation. We are further from our family, further from our friends, new jobs, new house, new town, no help because we didn't know anybody, so more stress. The hitting and pushing didn't stop. One time a coworker said something about a yellow tinge on my cheek. Like, what happened? I said, I don't remember. I must have bumped into something. I just kind of laughed it off, but I told no one. But I wonder if they knew. Again, I was shamed that I let it happen. And I didn't want people to think bad about my husband. That's not what life is supposed to look like. That's not the marriage I always thought I was getting into, not the marriage I committed to, but we have to keep up a good image. In the meantime, we had our second son, and the stress to keep 2 boys quiet was enormous. He would yell at them, and then yell at me for letting them yell. Eventually, the boys were beginning to wonder, why is Daddy yelling all the time? It was not a fun place to be. One of them, and this is the trigger, one of them said to me one night, let's go somewhere and hide so Daddy can't find us. That was the moment I realized that this is not going to be where I want to live. This is not where I'm going to be, where my children are going to grow up. I couldn't do it anymore. Through a series of events that could be like a Lifetime movie, he moved out of the house. It wasn't easy and there were still problems, but those choices now have brought me to where I am, to this place. Why now? Why am I telling this now? Because I'm ready. As I said earlier, this happened over 20 years ago. That shame and that guilt has just stuck with me the whole time. I struggled with the fear that what people might think. I wanted to protect my sons from that stigma also. Both my sons have grown into fine young men who have been through a lot, and I'm very proud of them. I did ask them today if it was okay if I shared this story, and they were both very supportive. One of the questions that people probably wonder is, why didn't you leave earlier? I didn't leave because I was afraid. afraid what people would think. Divorce wasn't in my vocabulary. Afraid of losing custody of my sons and everything I had worked for. My husband's dad was a lawyer. So on more than one occasion, he threatened me that if I would ever leave him, he would sue me for everything I had and custody of the boys. That was absolutely terrifying, and I could not take that chance. But I want you to know this. Despite what has happened to me and how horrible it was, and it was bad, it could have been a lot worse. I was so lucky that I had my education, that I had a career to fall on so I could take care of myself and my children. If I didn't have that, I'm not sure what would have happened. Each one of you needs to take care of yourself. You need to take every opportunity to learn and gain skills so that you can take care of yourself and not be dependent on anyone else. I wish I had made different choices earlier, because those choices obviously still affect me today. But I don't let what happened to me define me. I don't look at myself as a victim, but I survived it. I hope it gives you some hope that despite whatever situation you might be in, you can make it. You can move on, and there's so much out there waiting for you. Sometimes I think high school students, obviously all of us were high school students at one time, you just think that there's no tomorrow. But there is. You always have to be ready to move forward and move on. I've seen this saying, life is like a book. Some chapters are sad. Some chapters are happy, and some are exciting. But if you never turn the page, you will never know what the next chapter has in store for you. Don't be afraid to try new things. Someone asked me if this story was going to be sad today. I don't know if it's sad, but I hope you don't think it is. What happened to me? Yeah, it was bad. But that doesn't make my story sad. It was real. It happened. I want to show you that people can overcome those things. I made the choice for life to be better. It was not overnight. It was not easy. It's not perfect, but it's better. I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor. I thank God every day for protecting me and my children, for taking care of us, and bring me through years of healing to be able to come to this place and to tell my story. Remember, in order to do something you've never done before, you have to do something you've never done before. Thanks for listening.